Hello, everyone. Welcome to A Turn of Events, where we help put a positive spin on the future of your business. I'm Annette Naif, the CEO and creative director of Naif Productions. I'm just so excited about my next guest. This is going to be such a great conversation. You will not want to miss this. If you are a wedding or event planner looking to start your own business, or you are struggling in your current business, join us over at my Facebook group at Event Planner Society. A lot of great people over there, great information I'm sharing, lots of tips to get your business started and be successful in your wedding and event business. Okay, so we are going to talk about how business relationships help you grow. Very, very important. I could not be where I'm at in my business without it. Brian Worley is going to join us, and he is a transplant from Los Angeles to Atlanta. He is the owner and creative director of B Worley Productions. Brian brings an arsenal of high-profile event experiences to Atlanta's premier design company. With over 22 years of experience in the business in wedding and event planning industry. Brian was named Harper's Bazaar top wedding and event designer in the world. This extensive background of event production, coordination, design, and hands-on know-how has allowed him the opportunity to produce events ranging from top entertainment networks, corporate clients, celebrity and high-profile weddings, premieres, so much more. He's also done events for American Idol parties, the red carpet, Teen Choice Awards. I mean, it just goes on and on. Prince William and Kate Middleton. I mean, Brian, this is amazing. It's so exciting. Thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you.
Wow. Yes, I'm super excited to talk to you. So why don't you tell us a little bit how you got into being a wedding and event planner?
Oh, that's such a crazy story. I moved to Los Angeles when I was to do my internships when I was in college. I mean, I was social chairman for my fraternity. So then I moved to LA and was just trying to figure out what it is that I wanted to do.
Right.
And I was working at Banana Republic and met a guy who did events. And obviously, when you're in LA, you're kind of work multiple jobs and everyone has side hustles.
Yes.
So, and you're not making a lot of money. And I was also working on production jobs as a production assistant. So I met this guy and we just started talking and he did events. And so I started working with him and then just got more and more into a field that I didn't even really know existed. And from there, it's just kind of, all the things that I wanted to do started to happen. And I've traveled all over the world doing events. I've met incredible people doing events, made incredible friendships from doing events. And it's just one of those things that honestly, I had no idea was even something that you could, make money on, obviously back then, because you mentioned how long I've been doing it.
Yeah.
So it's obviously evolved and the industry has gotten bigger and bigger. And, it's $1 billion industry and I'm sure it always has, but I think that back then it was so new to me and it was foreign to me. And now it's just seeing the world and what it's done is really fun. So yeah, it's definitely changed my whole perspective on things, but it was one of those things that I didn't even know, like I was in Hollywood to, make it in production. And now I ended up getting to host some TV shows. And through that, one of the producers was like, you do what I do. And I was like, yeah, we produce events similar to a TV show. We just use a different set of vendors. So it's how you grow your business.
Right. Well, that's so funny because I kind of had the same background. I moved to LA when I was young and I was dating someone whose cousin was married to Sebastian, one of the brothers that owns Sebastian, the hair product company.
Okay.
And it was Christmas. We're sitting around the Christmas tree and having drinks and we were at their house and he was looking for an assistant. And I had, done events just as a teenager and I was the one who always put all the parties together. But like you, I had no idea that I could make money doing it. So I got in and started doing events, traveling the world with Sebastian, the hair product company. But 5 years of the same thing over and over, I got a little bored. And then I was living in LA at the time, 17 years I was there. And, you just can get into production work. So I got into production, it's easy there because you're in the mix of everything. And that's how it started. It just went from going into production. Then I moved to New York and I thought, I want to start my own business. But again, I still didn't think like I could have my own business. The economy crashed in 2008 and I was bored to death. I just finished college. I went late in life and I was working for this commercial real estate company running their events and the director of operations. And I was just like so bored with like that 9 to 5 thing and checking, I had to be back from lunch and I couldn't stand all that. So I just thought, I'm going to start my own business and boom, it just took off. And 14 years later, here I am. So I, like you, it's kind of the same situation and you just fall into, and I've grown, I've seen the industry grow so much. I think that's also too because of social media. We're able to see like everything that's going on, which in one sense is great, but in another it can be so overwhelming. And you just kind of have to stay in your lane. And
well, I think it's also access to like products, design elements, and decor elements that are so much more available to us now. It used to be you have to really create things and scout things out and find it, and now everything is so abundant, and you can just have a whole party pretty much delivered from Amazon or something like that, where it's completely changed that whole trying to search for something, and now it's available to you.
I know. It's great. It's great, but it is tough for new planners coming in and underpricing themselves. I know a lot of my colleagues have issues with that because it just it messes up the industry, but that's a whole nother subject. But anyway, so let's talk about, given the nature of the event industry, how crucial are strong business relationships for success in this field?
Well, I guess there's two parts to that. Is it your business relationships with your vendors, or is it business relationships with your actual clients? So,
Right.
both are crucial. I mean, you are only, they always say you're only as good as your last event, and it's your vendors that help make you look good, but it's also your clients that are always referring you and that are they're your business card.
Right.
So every event that you do, I always look at every event as the opportunity to showcase what I do, but every person in the room is also a potential client. So you have to look at it where you have to always be kind of on your best behavior or put your best foot forward, because if you mess up or something goes wrong or whatever, then everyone knows, because you have a captive audience that is always, that they're there for, you have a captured audience for a very short amount of time that is looking at everything. And there's nothing better than walking into, a wedding and just standing by the door and having everyone go, wow.
I
Like,
know.
that's the best part of our job.
Best part. But also what's tricky and the reason why I don't like to have, this is a perfect example of why I don't like to have vendors coming in that I don't know, right? Because if, the bride wants to bring in her friend who was a DJ at some other party, that's not going to turn out well. So we're very strict about, how are you on that?
Well, I mean, and it used to be more, I mean, now I've gotten, I think, further in my career where I don't have as many of the brides that I used to, that were like, my bridesmaids will help set things up. And, and I was like, we love friends. We love friends. And if they want to come and show up, but we cannot rely on them, because if they think they're going to come help on the day of the wedding, but then they had so much that are going to be helping us supposedly set up so that you can save some money. So that is definitely one of those areas where we love friends, but we are going to make sure that we are staffed appropriately, because if your friends are not able to show up or don't have the ability to do what needs to be done, then
I'm never a fan. It's always been and it represents your business.
Exactly, totally.
So if you're, like you said, they're coming in and they're looking at this wow, and if something over here messes up, they're going to look at you and think it came from you. So
exactly.
I never like to have that situation. And we do on occasion. I have to, like, if it's a DJ and I look into them and make sure that they're great. And, I'm very picky about that. So I understand it, because we've had, situations where I think once or twice it happened and it was very minor, but it's an eye opener.
I think it happens a lot also with photographers and videographers. A lot of people are like, I have a friend who's a photographer or a videographer. And I think that is that space where it happens a lot more than, anything else.
Which for me, listen, I'll meet with the videographer and the photographer on site. I don't want them like all up in people's faces, and I want them to be in the background so we don't know that they're there, but they're taking some great stuff. But what I do is I'll bring my own photographer in and do some new, make sure I'm getting the shots that I need, because I don't know, listen, I can look at their pictures of what they've done before, or they might not even have it. So I always just make sure that I'm going to get some great pictures for myself and bring
Exactly.
in. It's worth the money to spend to do that, because you put all this work into this event and you want to showcase that. So that's really important. Okay, so can you share an example of a particularly impactful business relationship with a vendor or partner that significantly contributed to the success of an event or project?
Oh, I think when you're having something, custom made or built, that always is a very specific thing that a vendor is very crucial to, that you trust, know will be able to deliver, make it happen, execute for you. So, I mean, I've had a lot of events and you get into that space where, brides or a client want something very custom. I just did an event last year where we had to take a old office space for a client and we had to turn it into a spa for a corporate client. And so it was one of those things where you look at a space that is clearly not a spa, and
Right.
we transformed it and it
Yeah.
looked amazing, but you kind of have to look at it as like turning old offices
Yeah.
into treatment rooms and turning a cafe from a conference room. So and figuring out how you're going to get water and power and all those kinds of things. So, the vendors that I had that came in, we really had to work together to make sure that we were able to fulfill the client's dream and create this spa out of a space that was essentially an office,
Yeah,
an office.
yeah, yeah. I mean, your vendors are so important. It's very, listen, I can't do what I do without them. So,
No.
they, like you said, they make you look good. So, it's really great. So, how do you approach and nurture relationships with clients, and how does this impact the success of future projects? I think we touched on that a little bit, but if you want to get
Well,
into
I mean, I think that your clients are your lifeline, and they are who is one, paying you, and two, you want to have that relationship with them. I don't there's definitely people who, sorry, it's dinging and I don't know how to, I tried it,
that.
I shut it off. It's I don't know, sorry, ding ding, these
Ding,
are
ding.
ideas, they're
Those
ideas,
are
they're just
ideas,
all the
exactly.
ideas. I'm just getting ding ding, idea. um uh, so I think, yeah, my clients are, I love my clients. I think that now, and you get to a space where I think it's important that your clients, you want them to be your friends, but you also have to keep the business side of it. But, especially I think when you're dealing with weddings, it's so much more personal. So you're really spending a lot of time. You're kind of like a hairdresser. You learn all the details when it comes down to, creating that seating chart, which I think is the worst part of planning any wedding. And then
Yeah,
you find out why Uncle John and Aunt Susan do not like each other and they have to sit on opposite sides of the room. And you really get into the minutia of the family dynamics. I think that's one of those areas where you become the kind of the therapist. But your clients are literally the ones that hopefully will refer you, as I said earlier, to their friends, and are the lifeline to your business. But your clients are also the people that you want to make happy. I mean, like, I am at a point where I know that some of the people are just not the right fit for me when I meet with them. And, it's hard because we all want the business and we
right.
all, we live off of being paid for what we do. And it's important to be paid for what you do. But you also, I found that as I kind of turned the whole way I thought, and it really happened in 2023, is I started off the year and I was like, I'm going to do 10 events and 12 if I like you. I did
Yeah.
44 events last year.
Oh my
Well, I
gosh.
liked a lot of
You
people,
liked
but
a lot of
it
people.
was weird because I had this whole mindset where I think that as I've gotten older and I came out of COVID and was so busy, and I really kind of like turned the way that I was like working and the people that I wanted to work with. And I just put it out there. It was a very strange thing. And I think, they say, if you build it, they will come. Literally, I put it out there and I was like, 10 events, 12 of I like you. Clearly I did like a lot of people because I did a lot of events and I did a lot of really great events. And I also got to travel the world and do amazing things. And I had an amazing 2023. I was exhausted, but my clients, I really put it out there and I changed the way that I kind of thought about not having to everything be about money.
Yeah.
And really, it used to be you're struggling, and especially when you're first starting out, and it's so much about like, I need the money and I need to take this job because I need, even if I don't make the money that I should make. And I kind of just changed that whole mindset. And you win some, you lose some, and you make more money on some events. And I realized that it wasn't so much about the money. It was about the relationships, and it was about the people that I wanted to work with. And I had honestly some of the most amazing clients last year that I loved, and I'm still friends with them. And I hope they're watching. And it's fun to see when I like posted that I was going to be doing this yesterday. And so many of the brides that I did their weddings last year, and the brides that I'm doing their weddings this year, they see on the story, and like, it gives you kind of like this really nice, like warm feeling that you now have this relationship with these people, and you want it to carry over into more than just the wedding day. And I don't know, I had a client or a bride who is getting married in April, and I was home in Texas. She lives in Texas. She's getting married in Atlanta. And so when I was home for Christmas, we went out to dinner, and then we went out for a drink afterwards with me and her fiance, and we had the best time. And I think that there is that space where your clients, they're your clients, but they can also be your friends. And you get to a point where we're in a social industry, so it's all right to kind of blur the lines. But it was really fun. So, I mean, like, you just kind of, it's just the mindset. And I think I turned my mindset around so much for 2023, and what came from it was amazing.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. The same thing happened, after COVID and we all shut down. Then I got slammed in 2022. Took, like everybody that couldn't do their events for 2 years moved, and then new one. I thought I was going to die by the end of the year. And I was like, that's it. I'm only doing a certain amount. I did the same thing. I was like, I've been in this too long. I don't want to be doing this. But I do have, almost all of my clients are my friends now, and some of them who I've done, because we do corporate, social, nonprofit, and weddings. But so I do a lot of nonprofits. And, one girl said, there's many of them has said it, but this one particular one said, when I get married, you're going to plan my wedding. And sure enough, last year I was able to do that. So it was, we did it in South Carolina, which was really, really fun. And, it's always great to do it there. But it was just fun to be, and you become part of their family.
Yeah.
You really are. I mean, you meet everybody, their best friends and their grandmas and their, you meet everybody. So it's definitely being part of the family. It's a lot of emotions, and like being a therapist, like you said, someone called me that, and I actually went out and bought the URL eventtherapist.com or something. I never used it, but I thought, maybe there's something there. So anyway, okay. So how vital are internal business relationships, such as those with colleagues and team members, to deliver successful events?
I think that's so important, because the people that you have around you, your inner circle, are the people that are going to make you look good. And they know you know them. And I think it's about trust. It all comes down to trusting each other and making sure that, I trust you to go do what you're going to do. And that's why I think, like, my floral team, I am one of those people that, I mean, I started out and lived in a studio apartment in Los Angeles, and I would go down to the mart and I would buy all the flowers and do the flowers myself. I give florists, like, they have one of the hardest jobs, because flowers are temperamental. You have to transport them. They break so easily. They can die because they need the right amount of water. And
that's true.
I think that, like, for me, I get to create the overall picture, and I trust implicitly the people that are executing for me, because they are the experts in what they do. And I can put together a flower arrangement, but that is not my expertise. But the people that do it, I trust them. I let them do what they do. Obviously, we have to work together, and there has to be the ability to take constructive criticism. It's not exactly what I had in mind. Can we change this? But I think that it's very important to give. I also feel that when you give people, especially creatives, the space to be creative, you're going to get so much more out of them, and you're going to get such better product. So I always am like, go with it. This is my vision. This is what I want. Now you have fun with it, because I think that when they have fun with it, then it makes me look good too, because they're going to have fun and they're going to put more heart into it. And then the heart that they put into it just makes it so much better. And then it just reverberates, if that's a verb.
That's right.
through the rest of the event. And it just, everything, giving everyone their space to do what they do well just gives you the opportunity to really shine. And so I am not a micromanager. I let people do what they do. And and it also comes with maybe old age and being older as well, is that you have to let go. And when you realize that you let go and you let people do what they're good at, then they're going to shine for you. And that's really important.
Yeah, completely. Again, I've had years of this as well, and my brain is fried. And so it's hard I always have my team. Even if they're in their 20s or 30s, I love to include them in all of the brainstorming, like ideas and things. Cause they come up with some new stuff that
absolutely.
This is a lot of old stuff going on here.
Right.
So I always love to have them collaborate, and they come up with some great stuff, and then we tweak and we talk. And so it's very important to collaborate with your team and don't micromanage. Oh man, I love to delegate. I'm just like the queen of delegating. I just don't want to have to, you shouldn't have to do it all. You shouldn't do it all.
Right.
Leave it.
And once you realize that, you realize, oh my gosh, life can be so much easier.
I know. And I'm still working on, as your business grows, your team grows, and that's a whole different kind of management. There's I'm very good at that, because that's what I do for a living, is managing these events. But it does change when it's internal and it's your own business. I coach wedding and event planners on how to start their own business. And but still, as you grow, you're at a different level. I'm still, I'm always about education. So I think education on your business, and as you grow, and having a coach, I think, is very, very important. So but learning how to manage that team and keeping them involved is really good. Okay, so what challenges are unique to forming and maintaining business relationships within the event industry, and how do you navigate that?
Well, I think that and especially COVID is a great example of it, is that you develop all these relationships and you build them, and they take obviously years to foster. And having done events, or I'll use hotels as an example, is you work with the hotel a lot, and then say COVID, or any vendor, but then COVID, everything changed. And like all these relationships that I had and the people that I knew are no longer there. And so now you have to start all over while trying to execute the events that you have. And I think that that's where the turnover rate really causes a lot of issues in those outside vendor things. And so that, for me, it's always really important to keep everyone that works for me happy, because I want them to stay, and I want the longevity of that. Because if they leave, then I have to start over, and I've got to train someone new, and then you're constantly starting. It's like every time you do a wedding, you're educating your clients on how to do on a wedding. That's why corporate is so much, I would say, easier, because you're dealing with people that do it on a regular basis. But when you're working with a client for their wedding, it's their first wedding most of the time. And for their first wedding, you're educating them on budget and how things kind of, like, you're taking them through the whole process. And every time you do a new wedding, you're starting that whole process over. So imagine having to do that with your staff and your team and all that as well. And you're always teaching. So I think that that's the most frustrating thing, is you build up all these relationships, and with a hotel, and with a furniture rental company, or whatever it is, and then people leave, and then you're like, oh, now I have, like, they know how I think, they know my brain, they know how I want
they know how important the relationship is. Because if you're starting with someone new, I know, because I'm based mainly in New York. We do events all over, but And the Roosevelt Hotel, perfect example. It's a landmark hotel that's been around forever in lots of movies, and they closed down right after COVID. And I was like devastated because it was great pricing, which is probably why they closed down, but it was great pricing. We could they had good space. It was a great location. I had great relationships. I was friends with everybody there. And so I got what listen, I could ask for a lot of things and they would give it to me. And so it always makes you shine. So lots of relations, and the pricing of everything is so enormous now, which wasn't like that before. So we've had to, educate our clients on that. Like, look, it's not going to be, $200,000. It's going to be 400 now. You're in a different, and they're fighting you, and it's a lot more work to find spaces and build those relationships now because you have to start over. It's kind of a bummer, but
and like you said, like those relationships allowed you to have it domino effects where you have that relationship with the hotel, which then allows you to have some flexibility with your clients because you can say, we can make this happen, and that you can make it happen even if you don't have to go. And it helps it helps the chain of getting things done because you don't have to like wait for a phone call to call someone and make sure, because you already know, I know so-and-so at the hotel. We work together a million times. We trust each other. That I know that they're going to do it. I'm fairly certain, 99% sure that that's not going to be an issue. But then you go into these, and when everyone's new, you're like, oh, great. Everyone's new. Got to start over.
And we're all new. And the problem is they can't give you, I usually like to go right to the directors, the VPs, because I can't wait for answers. They don't know the answer. So they have to go to their boss, and then it's a little bit of a struggle. It is much more work when you don't have those relationships and they've left. And I totally get it. And I'm feeling the pain because I'm kind of going through that right now with a couple events. Just starting over, and the client just won't get it. Like a lot of times they just don't understand, why do I have to pay $500 a night for a sleeping room? Well, that's the time of year that you picked, and that's what the price is. I can't do anything about that. So, it is a little bit of a struggle. So with the evolving landscape, the constantly evolving landscape of events and experiences, how important it is to adapt and change to stay ahead in the industry?
So I think it's funny. So this is kind of an interesting question, because I think it's funny when it's 2024 and I see all these people putting, the ins and outs for weddings in 2024.
Yeah.
And I always think it's funny because, who am I to tell one of my clients that something that they really want and have had in their heart is no longer in style because I'm putting it on my Instagram, So I think that you want to be aggressive and progressive, obviously, but at the same time, I've done plenty of weddings and events where they weren't what I would, they made the client happy, and they're not necessarily something that I would want and to put on my Instagram, and it won't show up in my marketing materials or on my website. But you know what? At the end of the day, not every wedding has to be a showstopper that's going to be Instagrammable or is going to be whatever. So, we can look at trends, and I think trendiness, or it's now the Pantone color of the year, and now that has become like, what are we doing about the Pantone color? And I just think it's kind of funny that we're putting out these lists that say this is in, this is out, when it's like, who am I to tell my client that they really want this? Do it. Like, I'll do it for you. I'll figure out, I'll shoot this part of the room instead of this part of the room because this part of the room is deemed, out and not in anymore. But this part is, well, we'll just do quick edits and tight shots of something. But so I think that it's really subjective, and, that obviously trends have changed and things are coming and going, and dripping crystals was like a thing back in the day. And now it's no longer a thing, and much more clean and crisp and all that good stuff is. But, I just think it's kind of funny. And we're putting out lists that say, this is in, this is out. And who cares? Like, it's their wedding or it's their event. So let them do what they want to do.
Right. I agree. And I say that to almost every single bride. Listen, this is your wedding. They're like, so can we do that? I'm like, we can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to advise if I think it's not going to, like it's going to be a hazard or something like that. Right. Or it's going to cost a lot of money to do that.
Right.
But we can make it happen. Right. It's going to cost you $50,000 if you want that. But, and then they change their tune. Or, listen, a lot of times I don't want to we're not about the DIY thing. It gets to be, I've kind of gone beyond that thing now. I just don't want to have to be, making centerpieces. We do on occasion,
Right.
if it's something easy, we will kind of get together and for a nonprofit and do something like that. But, I'm not doing stuff like that anymore. But what was the thing that I wanted to tell you? So yeah, so it's again, I think what's important about staying ahead in the industry is just kind of knowing like AI is kind of
Yeah.
very big now. Kind of it doesn't necessarily have to be the trends, but like what's new,
Yeah.
what can you incorporate into your wedding or event or fundraiser or whatever that looks like. So I'm a education junkie and I love to learn and be on top of things. And I like to just learn them at the top level and then kind of oversee what it looks like and then send it off to someone who's an expert in that area because I'm obviously not going to be putting building things and stuff like that. But it's always good to kind of be on top of what could be possible,
Mhm.
right? But just having those connections to make it happen.
I mean, you always want to know what is new and what's available. And that's also really important for, so there's in Atlanta, there's a guy who has, this really cool new dance floor. Well, it's his job to make sure that we are aware that there's what's out there, because that gives us the ability to say, hey, to our clients, this is new. And so it's that relationship that we keep going back to
Right.
that is, they're keeping us in the know. Or say a furniture company has, they send out and they say, we have this new furniture, we have this new line, which they're not going to be buying something that was like those curved curly couches with the
Yeah.
board like things. They're going to be buying something that's very modern and clean
Right.
lines. And so those are the things that you're going to start, like I would start incorporating into my design decks for my clients. And then I wouldn't show them those old couches or whatever, because I'm trying to keep current as well. And I'm also pulling inventory that is also new and modern. But
Right.
I've been saying it to my clients forever. I was like, I always say, it's not your mom's wedding and it's not your grandmother's wedding. It's your
Right.
wedding. So break tradition and do what you want to do. If you don't want to have, other than pretty much saying I do,
Yeah.
wedding can be whatever you want it to be these days.
Right.
So there
Right.
are no rules
I say that all
anymore.
the time.
It's like break tradition, do what you want to do. And I think that as we are in such a experience driven personality, who am I kind of world these days, that exposing who you are, like making your wedding about you, is
Right.
the most important thing. Like this is the night to celebrate you and the person that you're marrying. So why not make it just as immersive as possible into who you are as a couple, and making sure that all of your guests walk into the room and they're like, I get it. This
Yeah.
is so them.
This is so them.
Like I
Exactly.
can recreate, for my clients, I always tell them, I can recreate pretty. I can recreate your Pinterest board like no one else, because
Right.
that's just copying someone else's. And
Right.
it's flattery, but like let's go a little deeper. Let's figure out like who you are and how we can make this you.
Right. Right. Such a great point. Such a great point. So can you share some insights into building and nurturing relationships with event sponsors and how those relationships impact the success of events?
Sponsors, as far as like if they're actually paying for the event.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that
different. You can actually get wedding sponsors. I think that people have done that, but I think this comes into, events and corporate and nonprofit sort of thing.
Well, I mean, that was, back, I mean, when I was in LA, and most of pretty much, I would say 95% of the events that I did that were entertainment were always had a sponsor.
Right.
So that was, American Idol was Ford, AT&T, Coke, So we were always having to incorporate these brands into the overall design and decor. Teen Choice Awards, every year I would love it because I would get the surfboard, and the surfboard had a different look, and that was what I got to design
Yeah.
around. But we also had to then incorporate all the sponsors into the design as well. So making your sponsors happy is obviously the first most important thing, because they're the ones that are providing that money. But I always found, like, I would always say, give me that sponsor like checklist of everything that I've got to make sure I'm doing so that they are represented in every form. But then it was really important for me to figure out a way to incorporate their logos and their branding into the event so that it wasn't just like right in your face, but it worked into the decor. So one time we did Teen Choice, and we created an art gallery, and we created artwork with the logos and made it into like an art gallery. And one time for American Idol, we took the logos, and we had this venue that was all windows. And so we did a decal on all the windows that was, I called it an onion, but it was kind of like that mod 70s pattern. And inside the pattern, we did the logos and replicated it, and we did the whole window so you could still see out the window, but it became a design element that was in the colors of the event. So it was really important. And I think that it goes both ways, is that you need to keep the sponsor obviously happy, because they're the ones that are paying or giving the financial ability to pay for the party. But then also you really want it to look like it belongs in the event, and that the party is not just a fully branded event that is sponsor.
You're throwing up sponsor everywhere. Exactly. No, I think that's great. And you just made a good point that made me think of something is when you're doing some kind of element like that, I think having relationships with other planners, successful people in the industry who do innovative stuff, and not so like if I was looking to do something like that, could contact you and say, hey, who helped you pull that all together, right? So reaching out to colleagues who can help get those vendors to you. So that's another reason why relationships are important, right?
Well, I think that as this industry has grown, so have the relationships that we all have, and through all these different conferences that are now available for us to attend and meet and greet and stuff, that we've now, where it used to be that we were competitors, we're now colleagues, and we're supportive of each other, and we've become friends. I would say I had my 50th birthday last year in Italy, and
baby.
It was
I saw it actually. It was
a really fun party. But I had 50 people in Italy for my 50th birthday, and I mean, people had their spouses or whatever, but there was 12 event people there. So, and there were planners, and that could be deemed my competitors, but they're my best friends, and they came to Italy to support me again, along with family and friends. But I had 12 people that are in the wedding and event industry at my birthday that typically maybe in the past wouldn't be something that we would be that close. But I mean, these are the people that are in my inner circle that I travel with, are some of my dearest friends on the planet. And I rely on those relationships with them, not only as friends, but as also we work together, or, as for information, or to download and to, bounce things off of each other. So
I've had some colleagues reached out to me and say, listen, I can't be at this event. Can you go and help produce the event for me on site? I can't be there. One of my friends was having a baby and she couldn't travel. So it was a 3-day event. And she's like, I'll give you the run a show. You'll basically know what to do. And that's what happened. And so those things are you building relationships, not only help you in getting vendors, but also you could get work, right? Because they're like, I can't handle this, but I know Annette can do a great job with her team. So
I have started freelancing for a lot of my friends, and although they need help, and and it's so nice. I don't have to be in charge.
I know.
I just get to,
like it. Yeah.
I get to help and be, just do whatever they need help with.
Yeah, it was great. I recently called a show she was there. It was another colleague, but she needed extra help, and she wanted me to run, manage all the AV, and because it was a corporate event. And so she knew I had the experience with it. So I ended up running the AV team and calling the show and all that. I just walked in and had no idea what the event was about. So it's a little tricky, but it's kind of nice not to have to run around and make sure. They were running around like crazy doing everything else. I was just sitting at the AV table running the show, right? So it was nice. It was kind of nice. Yeah. It's kind of nice to do those once in a while.
Well, and you
So,
also get to see what your friends, colleagues are also doing
of
because
course. Yeah.
it's like free education that they're paying you
Totally,
for.
totally. Yeah. And you mentioned attending events. Our industry has a lot of great events to go to. Those are great things to go to. They have the education piece, but they also have, and I need to start doing that more this year. The problem is every time I want to go to a great one, I have an event, so I can never make it. But I'm going to try to do that this year because I know a lot of people in the industry, but I don't get to see them and hang out with them. So that's the part of
I
it.
always call it wedding camp. It's
Yeah.
all about
Yeah.
reconnecting with people, and I
I
call it
know.
wedding camp. And I can't wait to go to wedding camp
I
because
know. I know.
we're gonna just hang out and have fun.
I know. All right. So I do this lightning round at the
Okay.
end and going to ask you a couple questions if you're okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So who is someone who is inspiring you at the moment and why?
My mom, she's
Aw.
getting married.
Oh,
She's 77, and so it's very interesting to how many people get to actually plan that are in the wedding industry get to plan
yes.
their mom's wedding.
That's so great.
So it's been a lot of fun. It's definitely been one of those things where the other day she's trying to decide between venues, and they're trying to, she's like, do we want it small? Do we want it big? What do we want? And she's like, I need to know like what it's going to cost for this stuff. And I was like, I'm sorry, but that's not how we work. You need to pick a venue first, and once you picked a venue, then we will move forward with doing, the rest of the design and all the other elements. But once you
Right.
pick a venue, then we can move forward and just know that it's going to cost money and that you are, so it's funny. And she just started laughing. I was like, that's how we deal with all of our clients.
Yeah.
And so she was like, she just thought it was funny because I was like, I'm not going to sit here. I go, you don't want me to waste your time. She sells real estate. You don't want me to just waste your time and say,
Right.
hey, whatever. So, I mean, it was one of those things where she's inspiring me because I'm really thinking of like, she doesn't want a big wedding, but then of course I'm like, this is my mom and I have to go all out. And I'm like, what am I going to do for my mom? And so it's fun.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's definitely, I mean, my mom and I are super close. So like, I want to give my mom the most amazing wedding
Of course.
ever. And my mom's like, we just need something small and simple. And of course, me and my
Does
brain
she
and my
know who
heart is
you
like,
are?
it's just going to be like the biggest party and the best party on the planet. And, we're going to wow everyone and stuff like that. So I'm being inspired, and I'm also having to like
Yeah.
keep it in.
But you can do, and you definitely should do some surprise stuff, right?
Oh,
Like,
I mean, yeah.
gonna wow
Once
her,
she figures out the venue, then
right?
we're
Then you're
then
kind
we're
of taking.
golden, and I can figure out all the rest of the stuff, and we'll
Yeah,
definitely make,
that's
you
so
know,
fun. That's so fun. Okay, so what's the best advice you've ever received?
does it have to be event related or just in
No,
life?
just in life.
I always say that my dad gave I always say that my dad gave me the two best pieces of advice ever. One, when I was in college, he said it's easier to bring your grades down than it is to bring your grades up. So first year, make the best grades you possibly can. And he was so right because I worked my ass off, sorry, my freshman year. And it ended up I graduated, with honors and all that stuff. But I just remember looking at my fraternity brothers when we were pledging our freshman year and just thinking, oh, like my dad gave me this advice and I'm going to remember it. And the second piece of advice is that my dad said, if you start investing in the stock market and mutual funds when I was younger, you can retire a millionaire. And he would say, if you put $10 in, I'll match it. And from when I was a little kid, he's helped me invest. And
I wish I
so
had that. I wish I had that.
it was honestly, if since like I was 13 years old, I've been
That's
investing in the
cool.
stock market and, mutual funds and all that stuff. And so those would be the two, and my dad and I weren't really that close. He's passed away, but the two best pieces of advice that I ever got were from my dad.
That's awesome. Isn't that funny how that turns out? So, what are you most looking forward to this year?
Definitely my mom's wedding.
When is it?
It's in June 22nd.
Nice.
So that will be fun. And I'm building a house, and so it's been a
Nice.
2-year process. So it should be done in the next few months. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And then um, I have some really cool speaking engagements that I'm doing at wedding conferences, and I'm super excited about those because I really I feel like the US, I'm really comfortable in the US, and I really have this desire to move to Europe or move internationally. And so I've really started to build an international foundation. And so I have 3 speaking engagements that are not in the US.
Awesome.
And so I'm really excited about those, just to kind of see where in the next few years my life can hopefully take me,
Yeah,
internationally.
that's fantastic. That's kind of on my list this year is to speak more too. So, all right. So, what's your favorite tool you use in your business?
My phone.
That's an easy one.
I mean, if I didn't, I look back and I remember when my old business partner in LA and I, Jamie, she used to always, she got a BlackBerry and I never forget. And I was like, I love my Razor phone. I do not. And we'd be together at meetings. And so I'd get on and I'd start sending messages and I'd be like, this is Brian, I'm
Yeah.
whatever. And I thought, I never want one of those things. And it's funny because now I will sit there and, some of my clients are young or and we'll laugh about it because I'll say, oh, back when I first started, I didn't even have a cell phone. We didn't have cell phones when I
There were
first
no
started.
cell phones.
We had pagers. And I remember when I was in college, when I was graduating from college, and they gave us email addresses like my senior year of college, and I was like, why would anyone want one of those?
I know
And
them.
now I have 3 different email addresses. So I would definitely think that my phone is the end all be all, best thing, because it's a problem solver. You have everything at your fingertips.
It's amazing.
You're
It's
on
almost a
site.
detriment, though, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Oh,
Sometimes.
totally.
I mean,
Yeah.
I said this year I was going to not look at my phone when I woke up in the morning. Well, that hasn't worked out so well. So I need to
Yeah.
be more disciplined. But I spend too much time. Those hours I could be. It's early, but it's too much time scrolling. But I'm also looking to, I'm kind of on there because I'm all over social media and seeing if anybody's reached out or
Right.
answered questions or I am working, but honestly I probably spend an hour that I shouldn't be scrolling stupid
Hey, we
stuff.
all do. We all
I
do
know
it.
I don't want to do it. It's a little pain, but so that's awesome. Okay, so last question.
Uh-huh.
What's one piece of advice you'd give to wedding and event planners just starting out?
Piece of advice I would give to people just starting out. I would say that it's not always about the money. I think that it's about having fun and loving what you do, because if you have fun, you will get paid somehow and we're rewarded for it. And every single thing happens for a reason. I
Yes.
mean, before I moved to Atlanta, I kind of was in this point in my life where thought, what am I doing with my life? And so I don't know if you've ever heard of the Camino de Santiago, but it's a 500-mile backpack trip across Spain. So
Wow.
I spent 25 days backpacked across Spain. I started out by myself, met amazing people, why I did it, but it's a religious pilgrimage. So there's churches along the way, and it's been happening for thousands and thousands of years. But I had this mindset: I'm 44 years old. I'm going to backpack across Spain. I'm going to go 500 miles. I'm going to get to Santiago. The skies are going to part. Angels are going to come down. I'm going to have all the answers to life. I'm going
Right,
to know everything that's happening in the world.
right.
What all the answers are going to be there. And what I realized was that the 2 things that I realized were that everything happens for a reason, which is common. I mean, we hear it all the time, but it really does, because they always say the Camino will provide. And, on the Camino, I think it could be technically as God or however you want to look at it. But literally, when you're experiencing this backpack trip and you're just backpacking and you're walking, 16 to 20 miles a day or whatever it is, every person that comes into your life comes into your life for a reason. And it could be for 30 seconds to give you directions. It could be for a week to help you with something that you're doing. It could be a lifetime for a friendship. But whatever it is, I really learned that everything does happen for a reason. Have fun doing it. And that if you do have fun doing it, you will be rewarded in some way.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. And also, don't give up. Like, I
Yeah.
know there were times it's going to go like this, right? It's never going to be a straight, easy path. Be consistent, I've got to be visible out there and be consistent and don't give up. That's what happened. I just kept going and going and going. And eventually I've, built a pretty good business. So,
Well,
Uh,
I mean, I have a question for you.
oh.
So, I mean, so I, interact with a lot of people in this industry, and everyone is saying that they're really slow for this year. Um,
I am a little slower this year, but
and so I have a philosophy on it, and I would love to know your philosophy. And
okay,
I can either tell mine first or you.
go ahead. Tell yours.
So my philosophy is, and this is what I'm telling everyone, is my way of trying to make everyone feel better about it, is that we were so slammed, as you said earlier, coming out of COVID, and we
Right.
just did postponed all the COVID events, all the weddings, we did everything, we got done, and everything kind of ended now. So
Mhm.
then I'm thinking that for 2.5 years ish, we were all confined to our homes. So we didn't get to meet people. We didn't get to date. We didn't get to socialize so much.
Right.
So all those people that finally, once we came out of COVID, that started dating and met each other, are going to start getting engaged. And
Mhm.
then we're going to see that it's going to be the end of the year. 2025 is going to be busier again. But
Right.
everyone is like, I'm really worried. It's very slow. It's very slow. But
Well, that's good to hear because that's funny. At the end of every year, people always think, "Oh, you must do a ton of holiday events." I don't. I never do. I don't know why. Just not something in my business that I do, which is fine by me because I love December because I'm slammed. September, October, November, I'm just oh my gosh, I'm just ready to shut down on in December. But when I first started, it's been the same thing every year. It's so funny. I would get really nervous, right? I would get so nervous, like, oh my God, it's so quiet. I couldn't stand the million of emails that are coming in. But I've learned to embrace it over the years that I love it. But now and I did say in December that I really don't want to do a ton of events. I think we mentioned this earlier. I just want to do like maybe 10 events for the year. And I'm building a coaching program as well. So I'm working on my coaching program and I love to teach. So it's part of my passion is to do that. So I'm really trying to focus on that too. So that's a whole nother business that I'm building. So it takes time and you have to, it's a whole nother animal. But I start to get a little nervous because I'm noticing that it's a little slower, but I just feel like you just kind of have to embrace it and what I'm doing is learning, right? So I just I'm joined I'm doing a coaching program with somebody that's helping me, advance my business and really try to take it to the next level. Because again, I love to learn, and I want to see what other people are doing. And maybe there's some good tips that I can learn in my business that I haven't put in. Cause I kind of learned it myself. I mean, I have had coaches along the way, but you kind of do it yourself really.
well,
Um,
and where we are, I mean, there wasn't classes
no,
there wasn't education, there wasn't the conference stuff, there
no,
wasn't the accessibility to coaches like you back when you and I started.
no,
So like
not
we
at
were just
all.
like, okay, we're gonna do this. I mean, and we're gonna do it and just kind of
Yeah,
do it. But now there are so many resources, especially for people that are just starting out,
right. Yeah,
and
yeah.
those people. So
When I started, I was in tears. I First of all, I had done events for 20 years, so I knew how to do events. I just didn't know how to run the business. What should my pricing be? What forms should I have? How do I talk to the client? What's the whole process, right? My systems and all of that. So I was in tears. I couldn't get anybody to help me. I'd reach out to people who were successful in the business because I, wasn't starting really at the bottom. I just needed to know what should my business look like so I can just run it. And nobody would help me. So I knew
really,
nobody would help me. I knew then that someday when my business is going and things are going, I've been coaching one-on-one for about 8 years because people have reached out and said, can you help me? And I said, sure. And so I put a coaching program together for one-on-one, but now I'm building a group program so I can help many, but which is a different animal in itself. So I couldn't get anybody to help me. I finally found someone that would coach me on, the three basic things, how to price and contracts and things like that. And so you just kind of, yeah, there's not a lot of people and it's so silly.
but that's when we were competitors, and
I
now we're
was just going to
colleagues.
say, yeah, it's so silly but COVID changed a lot of that, I have to say, because when I started this show, when COVID hit, because I thought, well, I got to get in front of the camera so people can see who I am and, things that I have to offer. but I didn't want to do it by myself. So I thought, you know what, I can interview and talk to the best of the best, right? So I can interview anybody. So I started that, but it started out helping people in the industry. Like, what are you doing? You know, just because we were all coming together, but we had, happy hours like every night with friends and colleagues that we would get on and talk about what are you doing for your business and how are we going to do this. So of course, we went very virtual. My business turned into a virtual business, but so yeah, I think that changed a lot in bringing us together. I do believe that, but I feel like we're starting to separate a little bit, just because people are busy
Yeah,
and, it's different now. We're getting back to the rat race, I guess
you
it
got to go
is.
back to wedding camp.
Yeah, I'm going to come. I'm going to come. I want to spend some time with you and Angela. You and I have a mutual friend who I adore, and she's a riot. So
She is.
thank you so much, Brian. How can
Yeah.
people find you?
My Instagram is B Worley Productions. Facebook is the same. So
Okay, great,
email is brian@brianworley.com. So
great,
Instagram
great.
or whatever.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to actually spending time in person with you this year. And thank you so much for your time. It's very nice of you to spend time with us.
Oh, thanks for having me. It was so much fun.
Okay, great. All right,
Bye.
you guys, we'll see you soon. Thanks for joining. Talk to you soon.
Bye.